So this is actually a support vessel for a larger yacht called Ace. And you can see where it says Garçon Axe Ace on the side. That's what that's about. So it carries the larger like Donzies and other tenders, as well as a helicopter. And that keeps the large boat clean and doesn't have any issues with having to launch boats on their own. It's just absolutely crazy. Little girl ringing the bell over here. The big super yachts make a big deal of leaving, and the cruisers are actually kind of making fun of them, I think.
No, they're celebrating. It's fun. Something to do during the quarantine.
Yeah, it is during the quarantine. COVID-19 thing, and we were talking to some other cruisers earlier. And I said, this is actually, people go to the South Pacific and places like that to get away from everybody and to have it just be like it was 20 years ago. But this is what it was 20 years ago. There's very few boats. Half the boats in the harbor are locked up, and the people flew home.
It's very quiet here.
Very quiet. Restaurants are closed.
Got the beach to ourselves. Yeah. Empty beaches.
Empty beaches. Yeah, it really is an interesting time. And when we hear what's going on back in the United States with our friends, I mean, oh my gosh, we have it so much better.
We are fortunate to be here. We hope that it remains this way here and that we're safe. Mm-hmm. But for now, it's an amazing time to be here, and we're blessed to be able to be here and not be home, stuck in a house where we can't get out and do anything.
Yeah, make no mistake, we are quarantined. We're not supposed to leave and go into town or anything like that. But they have the grocery stores open from 8 till noon each day. The marina staff, the kind of somewhat essential services are still around. The marinas are running, so you can clear in and clear out if you need to move. But you're not really supposed to go between marinas. You have to call and ask permission for that. But still, it is just an absolutely gorgeous time, and all the kids are out playing. Everybody's got they're pulling floaty type toys around on their dinghies.
Everybody's learning how to
wakeboard behind dinghies, and we're really kind of failing because we don't have a water ski rope and we don't have any toys. We don't know
really
these people well enough to borrow them. Yeah, exactly.
I really would like a paddleboard.
Be a good time to have one. Everybody's out swimming. Water's so warm and clear.
But no turtle. We're not eating turtle.
No turtle.
No turtle.
There are lots of turtles around here, and it's always good. Anytime you see turtles, the water's clean. They don't stick around if it's not clean. So, making bungees. Repairing bungees. Our bungees just got destroyed, so we have the Sailrite small clips, like so, but they're too small, so I have to open them up with pliers, and then you loop them like so, and then crimp them down. Don't get your hand inside there.
Did that hurt?
It will hurt. A little bit wide for these. There we go. Like that. And then crimp them down. And they're set to go.
You forgot something.
Yep. You gotta make absolutely sure that you get your loop, your hook on. Then I've been kind of cutting these off a little bit. because they have to fit inside.
So what do you need the bungees for, Kev?
Well, the bungees are for our sunshade, and they pull on the shrouds up front and on these little masts in the back that hold our antennas. And over time, they just get beaten up really badly. And the old ones, the covers wore off and started to show the interior pieces of rubber. And that's when that happens, it's not long for this world. So, new bungees. We got tired of buying pre-finished bungees because we had the ends and plenty of bungee material, the elastic shock cord. So, yeah, small job. You know, here's the situation. We've this is what it looks like when it's been shaved down. When you try to sand this with an orbital sander, what happens is if it's too proud, if the caulk is sitting up too high, it wants to grab it and rotate it side to side instead of sanding it off. It's very tough. It doesn't like to be sanded. And so if you can get it down lower, where it's flat, that helps. But we're also seeing areas like this where it's coming loose, but it's very tough to pull out. It really is stuck on there pretty good. So we're going to cut as much of this out as possible. Yeah, so I made this little tool. I just took a paint stirrer and screwed a razor blade to it. I luckily have a big supply of razor blades, and that's kind of like just one of those tools one of those things you need on a boat. I was having trouble with the utility blade. I really had trouble holding it. I did some of this with just a blade using my fingers, and I felt like I was going to have it flip and cut me, so I didn't want to have that happen. Anyway, so this is the little guy I've been using, and it kind of helped. I took a Dremel and dremeled this part out so that the shavings can kind of feed up and through. It's not perfect, and there's probably a better way to do this, but this is kind of what I was able to come up with on the fly. I've got to say, there's a real trick to doing this. It's you have to hold the blade at the exact right angle. If you've got it too steep, it cuts down into the teak and kind of gets underneath the edges and creates a splinter. And obviously, if it's too flat, it just kind of skips right out. But if you can drag it along just right, it does it pretty well. Talking about it, just kind of caught a little bit of the splinter of teak in there and left a spot here, which we'll hit with a sander later. They're pretty obvious as long as we get to them relatively quickly. You know, you kind of see the dark wood underneath. Once it turns silver, like everything else, it'll be virtually impossible to find.
Let's see where you gotta do some repairs.
Well, you know, I mean, we're working out in Anchorage, just totally sucks, but here's my teak caulk that I'm going to use. Just need to get that opened up and get my other areas set to go. So I found this little bit of tape, small tape in my kit, and that is going to work perfectly for this. You need a separator at the bottom. If the teak attaches at the bottom of the slot, the bottom of the groove, it becomes almost impossible to get out. You can kind of see over here a little bit of the tape that Oyster used underneath this, and it makes getting the teak out or the caulk out so much easier. You're able to kind of cut the sides and then it just lifts right out. If it's bonded all the way through, it'll probably break on the sides because it wants to shear laterally, or at least be able to shear laterally. And that's kind of what I'm trying to go for here, is to get it some sort of a separation. Boy, do I hate caulking projects. I mean, they just suck all the way around. I did get I started with the Teak decking systems product, and that worked as well as it went, and then all of a sudden the tube clogged up. I couldn't get any more out, so I switched over to the Sikaflex version that I had, and that was dated. It was outdated, I should say. And so I used a little bit of it anyway just to see, but it seems to dry more glossy. Now, you're expected to sand it. That's this here. The Teak deck, the TDS version goes on a little flatter, a little bit more of a matte finish, a little thicker. And I like it. It seems to be working so far. I think we need to sand these after the fact. I'm just going to do these little patches, let them cure overnight, come back and see about doing some sanding, and basically do the entire process all the way through to make sure I fully understand how it comes out. And we'll just go from there. So Wendy cutting out the caulk a little bit, and then here I'm kind of working. This is a reefing knife, they call it. And the idea is to get as much of the old caulk out of the groove as possible. And it really all has to come out. And it's a lot of work to get this done, but it does eventually come out. And once all of that's taken care of, then you're ready to put the tape in and recaulk. As you can see, our grooves are still very, very thick and deep, and that's good. I've got this tool from Teak Deck Systems that allows you to kind of roughen up the edge before you actually caulk the area. That's kind of an important thing. This is what it looks like after you've kind of run a razor blade over top of it, or a scraper of some sort, kind of smooth it out. You want to get it as low as possible so that you don't have to sand too much. I like to give it about 10 minutes to kind of skin over, and then I'll come back and pull the tape before it really dries completely. So what you been doing, Wen?
Well, I've been gutting a little fish that our nice neighbor gave us.
Yeah,
Downstairs now all cleaned up.
Small tuna, but there was a mess.
He missed the mess.
I know it.
I'm clean now.
Yep.
It's in the fridge.
Well, here's a project that spun totally out of control. I had a few pieces of caulk that didn't look so great, and I thought I'd pull them out. And the next thing I knew, I've already done a section about this size over on this other side. And you can see there's a little light sanding that I did. We kept a couple of pieces of caulk, but by and large, most of it got pulled out, and that's good. I mean, we'll probably have to pull it all out by the time it's done. For some reason, the side decks are not in nearly as bad a shape. When I shaved them down, when I shaved the caulk down, I didn't see it pulling out the way it was up on this raised section of the foredeck. But, you know, it's just what it is. Just more boat projects. The depth of the grooves is very, very, very deep. So we're in good shape. We've got a lot of teak left on this deck. There's really no problem there. And for areas that had epoxy or something like that, I've been using a Dremel stylus with a wider abrasive blade on it. This one doesn't break as nearly as easily as the narrow ones I have. And this is a great tool. If it was even thicker, if the blade itself was even thicker, wider, it would be even better still. But boy, does it, that thing just takes it right down, and it does it cleanly. So it's not such a powerful tool that it would truly damage the adjacent wood. You have a lot of control with that, And that seems to be, that's the tool I would use. I've heard people using routers and things like that. I think, or circuiter saws. I just don't see that working without doing damage accidentally. Same with belt sanders. I'm not a big fan of belt sanders for this sort of thing because they just take off so much material. Really hard to control. Even with light belts, they just, before you know it, you've taken off 1/8 of an inch or something, and that can be a lot. So. Lots of fun.
Much.
Well, it's been a long day. It really has been. This is what it looks like. It's pretty ugly right now. But this is the key to it. You've got I've got 2 layers of tape on each side of the gap, and the idea there is to try to, that on the other side, I was having the caulk, when it was secured up, being a little bit low, so I added another layer of tape to basically raise the bead of caulk up some. And here in a little bit, I'm going to peel back all of the masking tape. Caulkers are deep, which is good. It's also using up an awful lot of caulk. But such is life. But this is kind of what it looks like after some light sanding. I'm using 80 grit pads on my sander, belt sander. Got some spots marked for repair. But otherwise, I think it's coming up pretty well. Side deck needs quite a bit of work. I redid 3 seams, the major ones that you walk on down there. Well, you know, I don't think this looks so bad. This wood will silver back up as teak does once it gets in the sun for a while and get some salt water on it, and it'll all kind of lay back together. It doesn't look like it's been sanded. I mean, I could sand a lot more off of this and take these hinges off and really go at it with a belt sander or something and get it looking almost new. We have decent enough depth in the grooves. Here, these show epoxy. There's a lot of epoxy in these, and that's from the install. I originally thought that it was somebody trying to repair the caulking, but in reality, I'm pretty sure it's just the way it kind of, the glue came up as they bonded it down. But overall, it's a lot better than it was. The boat's a mess, needs a good washing, but not with salt water. I want to go with fresh water. So I've got to wait till we're at the marina for that.
So what are marinas for?
Marinas are for washing the boat. Yeah.
I remember being in a marina once.
Yeah, a long time ago.
A long time ago. I look like I'm goofing off, but I have broken my fingers on the caulk.
Uh-oh, that's bad. However, still at the beautiful anchorage, head off the beach. We'll swim over there in a little bit, now that we've gotten the work done. Well, the never-ending caulk project continues. We have replaced the caulk almost. We're probably at 90% right now.
I'm going to say 75.
75.
I think there's a heck of a lot. You can see where we haven't even gotten to these seams, but they need to come. And then we haven't done this side. But it does feel like we've done all of it twice.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 3 times.
Yeah, indeed. It's been a lot of work, you know. I got to tell you that just bending over and crawling around on your hands and knees to get caulk off. This is the reason why people pay other people to do this job, because it's very, very labor intensive. So anyway, we're getting closer and closer to the time that we haul. Right?
Got about
Yep. 10 days.
2 weeks. Yeah, 10 days.
10 days, I think we have until we get the mast taken off for recoating and then haul the boat. So yeah, it's going to
Gotta
be.
get our on-water chores done.
Yep, and the island's finally opening back up. As you can see, people hanging out on the beach over there. At the end of the month, they're planning on, at the end of this week, in fact, they're getting ready to open the island to restaurants and everything. And the airport opens on the 4th.
Yeah, and we have plane tickets home.
It'll be June 4th, 2020. So, yeah, it's just crazy. There's so much to do, as always. So
As
much
always. Like get your hair cut.
to do. Get my hair cut.